In this video, we're going to cover something called the lunge punch. Now, it may sound like we're doing some weird exercise with our punches, but that's not what we're doing. A lunge punch simply means we're stepping with the same side leg that we're striking with. You may already know a reverse punch. You may already know a jab. Today, we're going to kind of combine those two things. So if I'm in a fighting stance here facing Mr. Bob, and I want to be able to reach him with power, I'm going to step with this striking leg. So if I'm stepping with this leg, I'm going to strike with this hand. Similar to a jab, but it becomes a more powerful punch because my weight's transferring through. In order to do this well, I have to make sure that I have good footwork. So if I'm going to strike with my right hand here, my toes have to be forward. I don't want to be bladed for this technique because if I turn through, it takes a long time for me to come around and then step. And there's some weird body mechanics there. So instead, my body should be facing forward. I should be in either a walking or a forward stance here. Sometimes you'll see this from a back stance or a cat stance, but today we're going to do it from a walking stance. So my toes are forward, feet are shoulder width apart, body is up and erect. I'm in my guarded position here. From here, I'm going to step with my right leg and punch with my right hand. Now, it's super important that you notice that the punch should end right in the center of my body. I should not rotate my body to try to get more length or more power. You don't need to. From here, as I step forward, my body is already moving forward. So I've got that great mass transfer from this position through my target. I'm going to keep good body alignment by allowing my shoulders to stay square and my punch to go right in the center of my body. The stepping foot is what gives you the power. Okay, the other thing you need to notice is that my elbow stays low. So if I'm facing Mr. Bob here, I don't want to lift my elbow and try to strike down into the target. I also don't want to lift the elbow and fold into the target, hitting with the side of the hand. The elbow stays low, maintaining that guard position and rotating the hand forward. Now, super critical here, I don't want to step and punch or punch and step. The step and the punch should happen simultaneously so that as my heel hits, my punch is extending, and as my weight shifts into that front leg, the punch is landing. So it should look something like this. And again, I'm rechambering back to my guarded position. Now, sometimes we do this punch from the hip. That's because we've either pulled something back or we've pushed something out of the way, and now we're maybe grabbing something with the other hand and doing a pushing and pulling motion in order to finish the strike with power as we're pulling our opponent into the full extension of our strike. That's one of the reasons we don't need to extend here is because our opponent is literally right here in front of us. So I may have blocked and grabbed Mr. Bob's hand and I'm stepping boom through with the strike. So I grab, I pull to the hip and rotate the wrist as this hand is coming from the hip and rotating over. So it's a switching movement, but I still want the punch to land as my weight comes forward. Grab, strike. Now, be careful that you don't grab, strike, and drop. Okay? You either want to come back to a guarding position or back to the hip, depending on what the next move is. Your hand position is determined by what the application of the strike is. If you're working a kickboxing combination and you step, you should probably come back to a guarded position. If you're working on a defensive position, a self-defense technique where you're grabbing and pulling, you may end up pushing or grabbing and pulling with that hand or turning and blocking, but your hand position never should drop, okay? So you don't want to step through and drop. You want to step through and come to an intentional position. Make sure that you don't allow yourself to over-rotate so you're putting your shoulder in danger. Make sure that you don't allow your punch to come up and down. And don't allow your foot to step before you begin to execute the strike. It should all happen as one continuous movement. That is your lunge punch.